It wasn't nothing.
I am ready.
Okay, you guys ready to go? All right, we will call the meeting to order. Just a reminder, I'll be presiding over the meeting until a president is elected tonight, so you get the opportunity to listen to me a little bit extra. And we will begin with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I appreciate that. Just a reminder that we're under the Open Meetings Act, and there is a copy of that in the back of the room. The meeting has been published and advertised in the newspaper, online, and the buildings. First item up is the oath of office for all board members. And so if you guys could please rise, and we'll do this together. And so I'm going to start with the first couple. They're all at your spots. Everybody have their printout in front of them. I want to grab those. You guys good? Okay, so I'll start it out just basically saying I, and then from there you guys can just take your name and then just all read them all together, okay? All right, I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation or for purpose of evasion, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of Benton School District Board of Education according to the law and to the best of my ability. And I do further swear that I do not advocate nor am I a member of any political party or organization that advocates to overthrow the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence, and that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence. So help God.
Great job. Did you guys practice that? You did pretty good. Okay, B is now the board reorganization election of officers. Again, I'll preside over this until the president is elected. You guys will have the opportunity to nominate a member for president. There's one nomination. So after we have a nomination, if there's no second nomination, we'll ask that we move to cease nominations. At that point, that'll be an all in favor. If we're all in favor of that, then we will, if there's one, we'll have a roll call vote. If there's more than one, we'll do a secret ballot. Okay. Okay, with that, would entertain a nomination for our president role.
I nominate Allison Slovatsky for president.
Okay. Tim Dreesen has nominated Allison Slovatsky for the president position.
Do we get a second on it?
No.
Okay.
No. I vote nomination cease.
Okay, and we have Kara's move that we cease nominations for the president position. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we'll have a roll call vote.
Christie?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
All right, thank you. You get to take over, Allison. I hate that part about it. I'm so happy it's over.
All right, I believe the next office that we will proceed with is Office of Vice President. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Tim Dreesen for the title of Vice President of Benton Board of Education.
Thank you, Jeremy. One nomination for Tim. Are there any other nominations? All right, is there a motion to cease nominations?
Motion to cease nomination?
Thank you, Steve. And then we'll do a roll call vote. Jody?
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Motion passes. The next office would be treasurer. Are there any nominations for treasurer?
I nominate Jeremy Dick for treasurer of the Bennington Board of Education.
All right, Jeremy, is there anybody else? All right, is there a motion to cease nominations?
Motion to cease?
Motion to cease. Thank you, Steve. Jody, will you call the roll?
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. And then in the past, we graciously had Jody serving as our secretary, and I think we wanted to try this year and have someone that's in the elected position do the secretary role, and then we would designate Jody to continue on what she's previously been doing. But since we're signing documents that are traditionally done by an elected officer, it's, I think, was the change in process for this year, which I think has been circulated.
I think if we can at least declare that she can assist the secretary, that'll cover the recording part of what she does as well.
Perfect. All right, are there any nominations for secretary?
Motion to nominate Christie.
I close the nominations.
Say no.
Thank you, Tim.
Sorry, Christie. Don't need me.
All right, since the motion's been to cease nominations, Jody, you want to call the roll?
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Motion passes, and then Jody would continue in her role as recording secretary. All right. I think now we need to approve the slate of officers. So is there a motion to approve the 2024 slate of officers as presented?
I move to approve the 2024 slate of officers as presented.
Thank you, Christy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Jody, will you call the roll?
Kara,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Christie.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, next up in our reorganizational meeting will be some housekeeping items related to approving practices and procedures. And then for those in the audience wanting to do public forum, we're a little out of order this evening, just given our reorganizational annual meeting. So we will have an opportunity to do that in a few minutes. But Dr. Claus, do you want to take us through the practices and procedures, just as a reminder, although we've had opportunity to review all of those over the last week, so.
Yeah, just a quick review of each of those. The first one's the approval of current board policies, regulations, and handbooks. Just part of policy 20301, we just need to reaffirm the policies that we have in place, the handbooks and the regulations that you previously approved. That's kind of just part of the calendar year and how these work. The second one is just the depository for the school district. We've utilized I3 Bank as a depository for decades. They've done an excellent job. We have an awesome relationship with them. They're very supportive of the school district, and also how close they are in proximity helps a lot with flexibility as well. And so we recommend that they are our depository. Newspaper of record, we have 3 on there: the Douglas County Post-Gazette, the Daily Record, and the Omaha World Herald. Those are all locally produced newspapers and provide us flexibility. You know, like today, if we would have had to cancel the snow, it's good to have that flexibility. So we'd like to approve all 3 of those. Next one is just the review of the media relations policy. This is not mandated for approval, but just probably a good reminder. You know, not this year, as everybody was here last year, especially when new board members come on. Just the best practices. So as the news media is seeking information, that'd be directed to myself. If there is a statement that would go out to the news media, we typically have that come from the board president as well. So that is in policy 1407. Review of the board member code of ethics. Again, this isn't mandated, but just finding good practice to review it each year. And so you guys can review those different various items on there. F is the dissemination of conflict of interest statements to the Board of Education. Jody has those for, I think they're at your place. A reminder, if you are a part of, if you are a stakeholder or have family that are stakeholders in contracts that we are going to sign, if you personally are going to gain from the school district in some way in your employment, you would put that on there. Or if you just have any personal conflict that you need, it's probably better to sign and put that in there than not. If you have any questions, let us know. We'll help guide you as well. G is designated superintendent as the authorized representative for Bennington Public Schools for all state and federal programs. I typically sign off on the end product of everything that we produce to the state or the federal government, so that allows me to do so. The last one is approving Dr. Blumenkamp as the non-discrimination compliance coordinator for policy 20301. Essentially, the district must ensure that as a hiring employer that we are not discriminating against anybody. We need to have somebody that would ensure that that's taking place as the head of HR. Obviously, Dr. Blumenkamp makes the most sense for that role.
Thank you. Are there any questions on these topics?
I move to approve the 2024 school board practices and procedures as listed and presented.
Thank you, Kara. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any further discussion? All right, Jody, call the roll.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Kara.
Yes.
Motion passes. The next item as part of our reorganizational meeting is the policy 20306 related to appointment of 2024 committee members. The policy states that the president of the Board of Education appoints members to standing committees, and we have 3 of those: the Building and Finance Committee, the Curriculum Committee, and the Policy Committee. I guess from my perspective, I feel like we've had a lot of change this year, and hopefully everybody's got a chance to understand what their role is on the committee. And my preference would be just to kind of let things stand as is. Hopefully we can kind of have some continuity, and that will certainly help things going forward. So that would mean that on the Building and Finance Committee would be myself, Tim Dreesen, and Jeremy Dick. On the Curriculum Committee would be Kara, Steve, and Christy. On the Policy Committee, Steve and Jeremy and myself. Is there any discussion on that or items you guys want to talk about?
I think it's a good plan.
Okay. And then the last item is the Bennington Education Foundation Liaison, and Christy Ryan has served in that capacity this year. Thank you for doing that. I know they've had some turnover on their board as well, so they probably would appreciate having some continuity. So if you'd be willing to serve, I know we've loaded you up with secretary as well, but
That's fine.
hopefully that's okay. Okay, all right. I don't believe a motion is necessary, just a discussion topic. I don't mean to rush that, but if folks have commentary, I'm willing to listen to it.
Good.
Okay. All right, that brings us to our public forum, which is traditionally what we start with. So sorry for the change of order this evening, but just a few reminders. If you'd like to speak with the Board of Education, there are gold sheets kind of in the back of the room. We'll just ask you to fill those out and bring them up to Jody up here at the front. She's got her hand up and she'd be happy to take those from you. And we would allow anybody to come up for 5 minutes or so and provide us some feedback or commentary. Is anybody interested in speaking this evening? It's a smaller group, so. Do you have any? All right, that might be a record. Everybody's scared of the snow or what? All right, the next item is our consent agenda. These are our routine items, which include the approval of the agenda from last month's meeting, approval of the minutes from the December 11th regular meeting, presentation of the January bills for approval and payment. I believe, Tim, you had bills, and Jeremy too? Okay. And then personnel resignation and hirings. Do the two of you have any comments on the bills that you reviewed?
Just a decent number because we had 2 boilers replaced at the high school for just under $41,000, but otherwise, everything looks pretty kosher.
Made a payment to I Bailey, that's our
For the-
auditors,
yeah.
so I assume that closed that out, the books on that.
Any other questions from board members on? Okay.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Tim. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Joe, do you want to call the roll?
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Motion passes. And then the next area of our meeting is typically the reports and presentations to the board. And I think Dr. Claus is going to take us through some of those. Given the weather, we made the decision earlier today to kind of limit the scope on some of these, and we're going to push some of them back to next month, but effectively just give us an update if you don't mind, Dr. Claus.
Yeah, so I'll probably skip over the individual buildings with the elementary, middle school, and the high school. Hope you guys had a chance to review those, and if not, student services had some updates in there and how they did within the testing structures of this current year. Dr. Bloomkamp had just different operations. I think you probably heard throughout the month as well, what we're doing on personnel and everybody else. And then Dr. Hoagie, remind me what you had within your report.
Support services for elementary
Yeah.
on interventions.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Within mine, not a whole lot, just the bond issue timeline. So as we're getting, one thing I just want to make sure we're on the same page with, we need to make sure that we're providing a lot of information to our community here over the next 2 months as our bond issue is being rolled out. So kind of our thought process and plan is from about the middle of January, so about next week to February 20th. We're going to be trying to make sure everybody understands all the information associated with the bond issue. That way they can make an educated vote. February 20th, Douglas County will be mailing the ballots out to everybody within our school district. So they'll be receiving about the 22nd, 23rd or so. At that point, as a school district, we're going to really try to focus on reminding people to vote. So we're going to try to educate on the front half, on the back half, just remind them to get their ballots in. And so that's kind of our plan from a really high level over the next month or a couple months, I should say. In addition, one other I just wanted to kind of touch on was a district office restructuring with the approval of Dr. Hoagie's retirement at the last meeting. We started rethinking what the district office structure could look like, and we are going to shift our assistant director of CIA to an director of elementary education, and then rehire Dr. Hoagie's position to a director of secondary education. Provide a little bit more focus within those two areas, try to provide a little bit better services because we'll have an expert within each of those as opposed to having to be full K through 12 for our CIA department. We know there's a lot of work yet to do. Dr. Hoagie does a ton and that oversees a huge part of our district. And so we began discussions today of what all do you do, Dr. Hoagie? Let's get this down on the list because she doesn't just do elementary, it doesn't just do high school. There are K through 12 or K through 12 programming. And so, I think of the school improvement process. One of those two people is going to have to take that process. And so we'll start digging those out based on whomever is hired. That way we can play to everybody's strengths. And it also gives us an opportunity as a district by building out of the director role that we were able to maybe scale up with experts within their area and also be a little bit more efficient as a school district. And so kind of forced our hand a little bit to rethink our organization, but we feel good that we're going to build from that director role, be a little bit more efficient and also provide better services to the district. So I just want to touch on that one as well.
Will you mention the audit items too? That was one I know that we wanted to mention so that everybody was aware that we had
Yeah.
addressed both the items on the audit report.
I love talking, so I'm gonna go through both of them actually. If it's okay, because I wanted, since Julia Plucker isn't here to do our lobbyist report, I'm gonna touch on the legislative too, so if that's okay. The audit follow-up, so in that audit that we had back in November, there were really two areas that said we need to make sure that you get taken care of before during the school year. The first one is that we had a few different groups that were on our tax identification number that had not been taken off. We've been working with those groups. We are really close. I think they're all off. We might have one left that we're trying to work our way through. As those are taking place, we're making sure the bank writes us a letter saying they're no longer on our tax identification number. We're also sending that directly to the auditors so they can see that we've taken care of our part on that. I thought we were 100% done, but we might have one more that we're working through. So we're really close on that. The second one is the change of the bylaws in the Bennington Education Foundation. So previously in January meetings, the board had approved whatever new foundation directors they got on that year. That was not on today's agenda, so we're no longer doing that. The belief was that because we approved them as a board, the Board of Education was kind of overseeing the foundation. And we need to make sure that we create that split. And so you guys are no longer approving their directors, and we're changing the bylaws to match that you no longer have to approve their directors. They have 3 strategic planning meetings over the next month, and that's on the agenda. They've all agreed it was going to happen. It's just going to take place over the next couple months. So feel good that we're making progress and doing what we said we need to do with the audit. So those will not become issues again next year. Questions on that? All right, and the last one, just real quick, since Julia's with the weather not able to be here tonight, reminder the legislative session started on the 3rd. You get 10 days for bill introduction. We're anticipating 500 to 600 bills that will be introduced during the short session here in the next 10 days. 150 plus will probably be, 100 plus will be within the education realm. Something that would touch education, whether that's financing or, education directly. There's going to be a large portion of them. That's always the case. Julia is working over those bills every single day. She's sending out reports on which ones they're tracking. It's way too early, obviously, in the legislative session to understand what's going to happen, or what we really need to hone in on at this point. It's just gathering all the 500-600 bills that are going to show up. One thing I think is fair to say, and Speaker Arch has said this, if it's not prioritized, it's probably not going to get heard. And so as you read in the papers, oh, this is a bill, and this is a bill, and this is a bill, the first question should be, is it a prioritized bill? If it's not prioritized, it's probably going to get a hearing, but they're not actually going to get to it on the floor. And so we're going to probably focus most of our time on what is prioritized from senators, good or bad or whatever, indifferent, so we know what's going to actually hit the floor. Questions on that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to our unfinished business. We have quite a few action items this evening. This is the first of those. The first is to discuss, consider, and take action to amend this year's 2023-24 school calendar. You want to take us through the change that you're proposing?
Yeah, working through as we started to look at the 25-26 calendar and started to think about snow days for this year and what that was going to look like. Started counting days on the calendar and found out there were a few different versions of the 23-24 calendar. The final version that, was publicized and everything else actually had 177 student days on there, which is one more than we anticipated. Essentially what happened is, if you'll notice, there's not a weekend on there. And so one of the weekends actually had 3 days or February 10th, 11th, and back on the 12th. This would have been the 13th. Like, it just happened to do three of them. And so when the final version came out, it didn't get recognized. It added a day when it got corrected. And so we ended up with 177 student days. With that, can you scroll down just a little bit, please, Stacy? We have one student day that we need to get off the calendar to get back to 176. We have spring break here, full week of spring break, the final week of March. We get out of school on May 21st. There is not a single day off for students. There are some early dismissals, but not a day off for students in this 8-9 week period. And so knowing that's going to be a pretty long stretch within the spring, we thought, you know what, if we have to take a student day off the calendar, wonder if we don't plop it right here in the middle of that 8-week stretch, give our teachers will be in that day. It would be a contract day for them, but the students would be off and get a chance to kind of reset and get planned and organized for the final month of the school year. So that would be the proposal, to add that day back to the calendar.
And I assume we roll out a communication plan to let our families know. I know that this is disruptive for folks, but hopefully telling them now, we'll be able to have them have enough time to make adjustments on work schedules and whatever is necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. Get that as soon as we possibly can, if approved.
Any other questions or feedback? Sounds good. All right, I believe there is a motion to actually formally amend the calendar.
I move for approval of the revised 2023-24 school calendar as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, Steve and Kara. Jody, call the roll.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, the first item of new business this evening is for us to discuss and consider the first reading to revise policy 40802, the certificated employee contract release date. And I will let you run us through the change here.
So here, this is something internally that we've been talking about a little bit. Our current policy states a request for release from a contract submitted before May 1 of the current school year, requesting release for the upcoming school year, shall be accepted by the board without any conditions. And so with that saying, that as a staff member, the earliest that we can have staff members sign contracts is March 15th by law. The latest is April 15th. After they sign that contract, by our policy, if any time from before May 1st, they ask to be released from that contract, it's released without exception. I think that probably served really well within Bennington and within the metro area for a long time. There's lots of teachers. It was okay, if we were hiring in May, we still get a high quality person, we fill it, not that big of a deal. Obviously, in the last several years, the situation with the teacher shortage has changed a little bit. And so we'd be recommending that we would remove that sentence saying that we would not automatically accept a release. On that same note, though, we would work with the teachers to try to release them from the contract. And so none of this would be in policy. It would be in writing to our staff members. If after March 15th, they sign a contract, moving forward, what we try to do is we actively seek a suitable replacement. We'd work our tail off. Obviously, they're leaving for some reason, whatever that is, and we want to make sure we either support them but we also want to make sure we have a high quality person within our school district as well. And so we would go out and we would advertise, we'd do the whole 9 yards and hopefully find somebody. But we wouldn't guarantee it. And so if we can't find somebody, you're under contract, you'd be back the following year, and then obviously you could, ask for a release the following year before March 15th. But we would work our hardest. We would grant releases for anybody, and this again would be written and so everybody see it, not necessarily in policy. If somebody is taking an advancement position, something that requires additional certification or advanced degree. So for example, a principal position, a counselor position, an interventionist, a school psychologist, or any other position that advanced certification is necessary, we're going to grant that to them. We're not looking to hold people back just based on that March 15th. We want to treat them well, and so we would grant those releases and just figure it out as a school district. And so that's one that we would put in writing to them as well. If it isn't one of those, I'm a fourth grade teacher and I wanted to be a third grade teacher, and third grade teacher opened at a neighboring district, we would go back to bullet one. We're going to just try to find a suitable replacement. If you can do so, we'll let you go. Otherwise, we're going to need you to stay. Just those advancements. The other one would be that, we're still going to be a school district that's going to try to treat people the right way. We understand that there are also life-changing circumstances. Somebody's husband gets a job out of state, or there's something that makes them move, whatever those life-changing circumstances are, we would still grant the contract release at that time as well. Just, I can't really outline what all those would be, but understand we're going to treat people the right way when that shows up. With that, tried to work with the Bennington Education Association, have ran this through the Superintendent Teacher Advisory Committee. I think people understand the rules have changed. A May 1 release 5 years ago is not the same as a May 1 release right now. I think everybody understands that we want to have the most high quality teachers that we can within our school districts and also treat people the right way. Hoping this kind of threads that needle to do both.
Thank you. Any board members have any questions on that?
No, thank you though for your work, because I know this is one of those tough things. And so to me, this is very generous and very positive.
Yeah, I just appreciate you slowly walking through this with all the groups that are interested and trying to get feedback from them and trying to do this the right way. So thank you for your communication in advance on that.
Yeah, thank you.
This is the first reading of this policy, so really there's no motion needed, so we can discuss if folks have additional thoughts over the next month. Reach out to Dr. Paz and we can certainly discuss next month as well. All right, the next item on our new business is to discuss, consider, and take action on our district purchases. And Dr. Blumenkamp has a man for us. So.
I do.
Thank you.
As you know, we've been looking for vans. It's been double-digit years since our last purchase on a van, and a lot of our vans are getting older, obviously, with mileage as well. And so we've been looking for vans. They've been difficult to find in production. Had an email and a phone call from a neighboring district about a month ago saying we've ordered more vans than we wanted to purchase, and they're available. Would any other districts be interested? And so went to the Building and Finance Committee right away and said, hey, I think this is our opportunity to get a new van that meets the specs. It's the model that we're looking for. Mr. Edens was confident it would be a van that we'd be able to use as far as activities or transportation for special education if we needed to. And so we were able to secure a purchase of a 10-passenger van at $57,877, which was a very fair price, and are asking for approval for that purchase tonight.
And then for the board's perspective, this was reviewed in building and finance and unanimously recommended for approval, given the scarcity of us trying to find a van, and I know we need it, so that helps. Anything else? Further discussion?
I move for approval of the purchase of a 10-passenger van not to exceed $60,175.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, shall we call the roll?
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, the next item is for us to discuss, consider, and take action on some curriculum and personnel proposals. And either Dr. Plas or someone from the curriculum committee want to share with the board your recommendations?
Yeah, I'll quickly run through those. So there are 6 up for approval tonight. All of them are curriculum related in some way. These are the group that we kind of started looking at that did not have quite as much, they weren't high dollar ones. And so we looked at all the low cost ones to begin with, and we've been trying to work our way through what would be most beneficial to the school district. Number 34 is the adding of an AP pre-calculus class, and so additional AP course for our high school students. Ceramics course at the high school level as well. I think we've had it, or then it went away, and this would be an opportunity to bring it back, and so additional offerings for our students, which is always a good thing. Number 42 is the Leadership Academy course, which is an elective leadership course within the high school again, or I should say, again, we have some teachers and coaches and others that went to a leadership course and thought, you know what, we can bring that back and we can help improve the leadership within our high school as well, and so this would be an elective course for those students. The addition of AP Government, again, another AP class, just to make it even more robust offerings for our students. A Unified Music course, currently we have multiple unified opportunities for our students, and proposals written to add a Unified Music course, which we're really excited about, and it would be an opportunity for all of our students to work together and within the music class. So that's pretty exciting. And then the 6th one we're putting on there, there was a request for a therapy dog, change the policies and procedures. We actually have a policy allowing a therapy dog. And so as our curriculum committee went through that, the request was, okay, we know that we can do it, but let's make sure the procedures and the practices associated with it are in line. They work for our district, both short and long term. And so we'll look for approval of that tonight, but know that kind of the next step is for our curriculum committee to see what that practice would look like here at Bennington Public Schools. Once they feel comfortable, then we'll start rolling them out within the actual school buildings. All in, $24,060 for those proposals. And then, yeah, they're being unanimously recommended by the curriculum committee at this time.
Thank you for that. Is there any other comments from the curriculum committee or? So it looks like we have about 36 proposals left, so you guys will continue to go through those as the budget situation gets more clear, and then we can kind of explore the other options. So folks that are watching what proposals are being approved know that there hopefully will be more coming when we get more data, and that I know has been a priority for you guys, and I appreciate you trying to find a way to make some of the lower cost items work so we can make it better, so. I believe there's a motion. If there's no further discussion.
I move to accept the recommendations by the curriculum committee for the 2024-25 curriculum and personnel proposals, number 34, 40, 42, 33, 51, 23, as outlined in the December 11, 2023 curriculum committee report and pending 2024-25 budget approval.
Thank you, Kara. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Christy. If there's no further discussion, shall we recall the roll?
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, the next item is for us to review the draft options for the 25-26 school calendar. It's always exciting for folks. Dr. Hogan, will you help us understand what the options are and what you're asking for the board?
Certainly. I developed 3 different options for us to start with. And with each of those, the main pieces, all of them have the same starting date of August 13th, which is comparable to what we've done other years. Our community is pretty adamant that we finish school before Memorial Day, and so all three do that. Some a little earlier, because of opportunities we can change breaks or reduce breaks other places. The first draft gives us a full 2-week break for winter. The second and third drafts would bring teachers back on Friday for their return to school, while students would have the full 2 weeks off. So that gives us some flexibility in our ending date on the second and third calendars. The other piece that shifts a lot, or potentially could shift, is how we do spring break. The first option gives us a full week at the end of March, that first week in April. The second one gives us a full week in the middle of March. And the third option does a wraparound week around the weekend of Easter. So our district used to do an extended Easter weekend break. This year will be our first year of a full week break. The difference in the weeks in March really wrap around the kickoff of state testing. The first option, state testing opens, we'll get ACT done March 24th for our juniors, and then take a spring break. The second option does a spring break the week before we start state testing, and the third option then wraps around Easter. So those are different variations there. In the second one, we put a break in the fourth quarter that similar to what we changed tonight's calendar to add a break. Otherwise, spring break being in the middle of March, we really are going almost the whole fourth quarter without a break with that layout that early. The first and the third, with the places that they go, there would be a break on March 13th in the third choice. In the first one, also in-service day on March 13th. So these are different ways that we can frame the calendar. The major considerations as we put it together are on the very last page of these. When we do our winter break, which day do we bring staff back and students back, our spring break options, parent-teacher conferences. In one of the options, I actually, our draft 3 moves them back to a Wednesday, Thursday evening. And so rather than having almost 5 days weekend for the students, it would go to a 4-day, because we always have an in-service, and then it goes with President's Day. So that was another variation that I tried as well. Move around some in-service days, whether in March or April, where we put the January date, February dates, and then early dismissal days, looking at our December, whether we do a December 3rd early dismissal or December 10th, depending upon whether staff feel like we want 2 uninterrupted weeks while kids are getting ready for finals right at the end of the semester, or if putting it at the 10th just before we break, the last couple of days before finals is another option. So trying to come up with a variety of ways we could put it together, but those are the main pieces. I'm working with Stacy right now. We will put together a questionnaire for the staff to give us feedback on these, and we always give them opportunities that they can throw out new ideas. And that's what we did last year with, actually we had 3 choices for the staff, and with their suggestions, we modified a 4th one and brought that one back to you. And that would be our intention as well, is to get input from the teachers and staff over these 3 drafts and any other suggestions they might have. But we wanted to share those with you, because if there's anything that we've thrown in as an idea or something that we might consider before we take it to the staff, if you have suggestions or areas to be of concern, we'd love to hear those so that we could get that in the drafts for the staff.
Let us know.
So
And take
you,
feedback from the staff. I know that folks are excited about the full spring break, so we'll see how that goes this year.
Absolutely.
Spring break.
so you guys don't have any, there's no passion points on the winter break, spring break, parent-teacher conferences, in-service start and end dates. Those are kind of like the main ones, once we know that it all falls together. There's no major passion points on those.
I think the staff feedback's probably going to be critical on that, because it's how it works in the classroom. In my mind, as long as we have the number of hours and it's reasonable days off and breaks for folks, I don't have personal strong. So,
And
Perfect.
the only feedback that I've received at all was that the winter break did seem short, but we have 2 options that allow for a little bit of a longer winter break.
Yeah, Christmas on Wednesday next year pretty much lends itself to a 2-week break, you know, I don't know how you do it any other way, so, yeah, should be longer this year.
thank you, Dr. Murphy. All right, next item of new business is for us to discuss, consider, and take action on a new state mileage reimbursement rate. It's very exciting.
Yeah, pretty exciting topic here. Whenever we have staff that attends workshops or conferences, trainings, official functions, hearings, whatever that may be, outside the district boundaries, we need to reimburse for their travel. We've always utilized the state reimbursement rate as that, as the rate that we use for that. It has changed from 65.5 cents to 67 cents, so it went up 1.5 cents per mile during this year. Kind of see a list there before it goes up and down, most of the time based on gas prices. And so I would recommend approval of 67 cents for the reimbursement rate for 2024.
Any feedback from the board? There's a motion.
I move to approve the 67 cents as the Bennington Public Schools mileage reimbursement rate as provided by the Nebraska Department of Education.
Thank you, Christy. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Steve. Jody, call the roll.
Kara?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Perfect. Here's one quick question. Nowhere in policy does it say that, or I'm wondering if this is something that the board has voted on each year. We continue to do that, or it might be something that if we want to put in policy that we are going to utilize the Nebraska Department of Education reimbursement rate, and we wouldn't necessarily have to vote on it every year. We'd understand that we could report on it, put it in the superintendent report or whatever, but wouldn't necessarily have to be an action item if we were to go that route.
So it just makes more sense.
Yep.
That seems
good. Okay, we'll put that in our summer policy to-do list.
Thank you. I was just going to say, put on our policy list. I'm sure it's growing today. Okay, the next item is for us to discuss the district cash flow report. Do
Okay.
you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, I'll quick walk through that. So something just to kind of make sure that we're all on the same page of kind of how the district funds come in and go out. And so you can see this is all, everything through December of 23 is accurate. Everything from January up to August is a projection, and so that's not perfectly accurate. I believe this probably started at Bennington during the time period when maybe we were borrowing to make payroll because during the lean months, or we had really got pretty close on this. Our reserves are in a little bit better shape now, and so we're not necessarily borrowing or getting that close, but my guess is that's when this started. A couple things just to make sure that, you know, you kind of can see the nuances of it, or we talk about the nuances of it. In April and August, we receive about 20 million of our total because the property taxes come in April and August. Because we were 92% residential, we received a huge bulk of our property taxes in those 2 months. I'll be honest, when I got here, I was like trying to analyze our cash flows. I'm like, well, this is easy. It's all in 2 months. You know, a lot of places they have more commercial or industrial, or they have more agricultural ground within the valuation. And so it doesn't come in within 2 months of the year. It is a little bit more spread out. But we get those big amounts in April and August. Trying to get ourselves to April is where the cash gets a little bit tight. And so if you look at the bottom line within our balances, you'll see we're about 5.7 million in cash reserves today. We'll hover between there and 7 million for the next couple of months if everything came as we were hoping, and then it inflates up to 14 million. And then we slowly trickle that away until through August, just because of how it works. State aid comes in over a 10-month period from September to June, and so that $2 million that we're receiving every month right now is stable for us. The others come and go. You know, when the property tax credit shows up, that's about $500,000 and $450 million that comes in 2 payments. That balloons us up for 2 months. Those are all set out by the state. We can't really do much with those. So it's just good for us to always analyze how much money we have coming in and going out, make sure we can make payroll and that we're not in a dire situation. When we speak with community members about the reserve, you know, sometimes like, well, you know, best practice is to have up to a 25% reserve. Why do you have that? This is why. We don't receive the exact same amount every single month throughout the course of the year. You know, we've got to make sure we've got enough built up for these lean months as well. And that's just how school finance typically works. Last thing I just wanted to point out, generally what you can expect out of our expenses, other than the bookends of the calendar year, the start of the year is a little more expensive, the back end of the year is a little more expensive. And if you think about it, we're doing summer projects, purchasing vehicles, textbooks, those all come in during those times. Generally, during the middle 10 months, we're about pretty equal. It's about $4 million per month at this point in the middle 10 months. And so we know what to expect on the expense side, especially when 80% of your expenses are paid out. The revenue side can vary quite a bit. Any questions on that?
Thank you. No motion needed, that was just a discussion item. And the next discussion item is our district housing report.
Yeah, this was a new one. You know, funny story, when I got here, they said, yeah, Dr. Hoff drives around over Christmas break and he counts all the houses. And then based on the house count, it helps project what our boundaries can look like, potential enrollment. And I said, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And then about the middle of October, I started to wrap my head around this place. And oh God, I'm gonna be counting houses all night. And so as a team, we all counted houses. One thing I do want to point out is, you know, we had more of a team approach, I think, doing it this time. In addition, because of the transition, you know, I think Jody has counted a certain subdivision over the last several years. It's probably consistent. Her numbers are consistent. When I took over for some of the areas Dr. Hawk did it, I may have done it the exact same. I may have done it a little bit different. And so there might be a little variation in here, but this will develop some new consistency. So I just wanted to recognize that. Our 22-23 data shows we had 344 homes added in 2023. For comparison, in 2022, we had 356. And so we were pretty much right in line with that. We had 126 homes under construction. That's 52 less than last year. Again, that can be accurate-ish based on the transition, but significantly less than there were the year prior to that. So there was 178 during this count last year, 126 this year. 5 years before that, 300, 200, 270. And so it was home construction as of this snapshot time is down compared to the previous ones. But the lots to be developed, we have 1,600 lots that are in, 1,621 lots that are in subdivisions that are currently being developed. And so now I'm thinking, you know, a subdivision that half of the homes are being developed, or at least there's some that are coming, and you can see construction starting to take place. We have 1,600 lots that are available within those subdivisions. We have another 1,870 lots in subdivisions that are platted out, but they haven't actually started constructing homes yet. And so you add all those up, you get over just under 3,500 lots that are available for development within our districts. As those rooftops show up, students show up, it's, you know, that's how Bennington is going to operate. So, you know, we continue to still have a lot of development that's taking place and will continue to take place within our school system. Couple quick notes. Obviously, the construction is down. I think we can probably maybe attribute that to the inflation and interest rates and all that have come in over the last year or so. One thing I did want to note that some of the decrease is the high number of apartments. And so what we tried to do in the same document, scroll up just a little bit, please, Stacy. Right here, I've added an area that's just large-scale rental units. So West Line over on 168, that opened over the last year. Hanover Flats on 156, that opened over the last year as well. That was 440 apartment units that just opened this year. There are more, we anticipate up to 600. We thought we'd start tracking the apartments a little bit separately. Even though they're in a subdivision, you know, they're plotted out, we want to know exactly what the apartment units look like. It's a little bit of a new phenomenon for Bennington to have that many apartments, and so we're going to separate those out. That way, if we hear another one's being developed in the next year, we'll have some type of idea of how many students are going to be within that area as well. Most all of the lots for development, not most all, but a very big portion of 3,500 lots open for development are coming right down that corridor of 156 and 168. And so we do have that Morgan Ridge site for development for an elementary when we need to. The boundary lines are set up, anticipating those going to the North Middle School for the most part within there. It's, but there's a lot of it just right down that corridor of the middle of 156 and 168. I probably should have led with this, but just so kind of as people are reading it, can you please scroll up, Stacy? Up. Other end. This is the numbers, how filled the subdivision is. This is the number of students per home that we can expect. And then down here, these ones aren't filled out. So we can anticipate, I'm going to pick on Newport Vista, just because it's one of our faster growing ones. Where is it? Oh, down here. 123 of our 367 lots are actually filled at this point. And so we know to expect at this moment the number of students per home. And so when we take the other 200 homes that yet to be developed, we multiply it by the percentage, and we're 221 students we estimate out of that subdivision when it's fully filled. And so that's kind of how the boundary lines are determined. That's how we're estimating how many students will come out of every subdivision. The 221 could be 270, it could be 150. We're just basing it on the information we know. Based on the homes, how many students are coming out, how many kids per rooftop, essentially. It's going to continually be changing. Some of our subdivisions are starting to age out. What I mean by that is maybe they have a whole bunch of elementary students. I'm going to pick on Pine Creek for one. Upper elementary students, then they became middle school students, and now they're high school students. As those students graduate, if the homeowner doesn't sell back to somebody, if the homeowner doesn't sell back to somebody that has students, we might see the subdivision of Pine Creek, the number of students in there continuing to decrease. And that's fairly typical. As a subdivision ages, the number of students within there also decreases. And so that's something that this will help us continue to monitor and set up, make sure that we have the right number of students within every school building. Any questions on that? All right. One quick thing I want to add on there. This is one data point for us. The board contracted with RSP last year to look at what our potential demographics and enrollment look like into the future. We've worked with the DLR group in the past as well, trying to figure out what our potential enrollment growth could be. It is not a perfect science. And so we have one data point, that would be another data point. We put them all together and we make the best, the most informed decisions that we possibly can. We also know that there's no way to perfectly predict how many students are going to be in every area all the time. And so it's just one of our 7 data points.
I guess I do have one question about the method there. Like, we can't get numbers from the county about homes in each subdivision or permits that have been pulled?
You can, but they're often dated as well. And so when you drive through there, you're able to see, is there a basement there? Is the home currently under construction? If you go to the county and you pull it, you don't necessarily know, is that home going to be done in a month, or does that person just still own that land until it's completed? And so it kind of gives you a little more of an ongoing, that's what I thought as well, Jeremy, that there's got to be an easier and better way to do this. And there might be, I just haven't quite figured out what it is. At least we know with eyes on each of these that we feel fairly confident in the numbers as opposed to lagging data from the county.
Thank you for that.
I thought about a drone too. I mean, there's all sorts of potential options. You just got to figure out what they are.
Well, thank you for doing all that. That's time consuming, so.
Yeah, and thanks to the team. Honestly, it became a team approach this year. Everybody in the district office took different subdivisions, and we all kind of learned together, and we're going to continue that into the next year as well.
Great, thank you for that. The next item is for us to discuss, consider, and take action on pre-authorization to proceed with the schematic and design development contract with DLR Group.
Okay, so have a new, there was a pre-authorization to proceed document that was signed by the board of DLR Group for the 2022 bond issue. Obviously, when that didn't pass, that contract terminated, and then here we are. So what this does is allows DLR Group to continue the work that they're doing. And so we've been working with them really since last March. And Dr. Blumenkamp and others through that time saying, okay, bond didn't pass, let's look at this building, let's figure out what we gotta do to scale this back, make sure that we can get the costs down, those type of things. And so they've been working for, whatever that is, 8-9 months now to try to get to this bond proposal that we rolled out last month. Now, as we look forward to the March 12th deadline, we need to continue working forward because of the tight time schedule. And so when we talk about the infrastructure that needs to be engineered and the architecture and engineering of the infrastructure, the roads, we have to get that certified by the county. If it is approved at that time, we can't stop for 2 months, because if it puts us 2 months behind, we're not gonna be able to be grading or pouring footage before the winter. And so knowing that, DLR has asked us to approve a new pre-authorization. A reminder, their fee is 5.9%, and so that'd be 5.9 in total construction. If the bids come back and they're 10 million less than what we're projecting, they get 5.9 of the 10 million less. If it comes in over, it's 5.9 of that total. And so we assume the 5.9, but really it's gonna be actual build construction that they're going to be building off of. With the first pre-authorization, and obviously there was a ton of work that went into the bond issue in 2022 from their perspective. The district paid just under $1.1 million for that work. That is all credited here. And so DLR took the bill minus exactly what we paid to them on the first one. And so, that was work that they want to continue being a good partner with the district, and they credited us back. And so that's not being repaid. There is an additional $150,000 within here for the work that we've had to do to get to the second bond issue, the rework, the redoing of it. And it was fairly significant. I mean, there's been a lot of changes. Obviously, you don't reduce the scope of the project down as far as we have, not to mention get the input from the board, the community, and everybody else, and try to do the best we can with it without a lot of additional workload. So this would be reimbursing them for their workload to get to the new bond total. And so subtracting their credit, the total cost would be $4,955,450 if the bond were to pass. That's what we'd be signing up for. Within this, in addition is we'd be paying for $167,442 of infrastructure, architecture, and engineering. And so again, that's getting us to the March 12th. If it does pass, we continue to move forward. If the bond fails, I don't think this is going to be a sunk cost if we go back to that same property at some point, because it's all infrastructure within there. DLR trying to be a good partner as well. They're going to put in about $180,000 of at-risk work. And so any work that they're doing between now and then, because we can't really stop and wait for the March if we want to stay on these deadlines. And so as far as actual design beyond schematic, they're going to put about $180,000 of the work in. If the bond fails, they're not going to bill us for that. If it passes, it's just being rolled into our total anyways. And so they're being a good partner with this as well. Obviously, Hausman, our construction manager at risk, has been within the process as well. We have not paid them. And so everybody's kind of got a little bit of skin in the game on this particular bond issue. With that, we'll look to the Building and Finance Committee's unanimously recommending the approval of this contract based on the information. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board? I know we've kind of been going back and forth trying to get the numbers into what I viewed as a reasonable scope, and I appreciate you getting the team on board with everybody having some at risk with the project, right? And the timing is not ideal, but I appreciate your efforts there. So, any other comments from the Building and Finance Committee? All right, there is a motion.
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into an agreement with DLR Group for schematic design and design development phases of the high school #2 project.
Second.
Thank you, Jeremy and Tim. Is there any further discussion before we go? All right, Jody, call the roll.
Tim,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, the next item before us is a potential executive session to discuss support staff and administrative compensation. This is the next phase of our contract negotiations for next year. There is a motion.
I move that we enter closed session for the purpose of holding a strategy session regarding collective bargaining as an executive session is clearly necessary for the protection of the public interest.
Thank you, Christie. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tim. And for those in the room, we do anticipate action after our executive session. Jody, we call roll?
Kara,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
7:05.
So Allison, just so that, I'm gonna announce my time. Everybody at home, we will pause the video and the sound, but we will come back live once you guys come back out of the executive session.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,